Good morning, class 8. Today we will be starting a new topic, viral diseases. Now, the term virus, you have been listening to this term these days a lot because of the entry of a new novel coronavirus. So, let us see what these viruses are, how can we define them, how they act inside the body, and what diseases they can lead to. Let us first see how can we define viruses or what are viruses. The viruses are extremely small substances made up of nucleic acids and proteins. Now, what do I mean by that? Nucleic acid. If you remember, when we were talking about cell and we were discussing about the nucleus, the brain of the cell, the most important organelle of the cell, we also talked about the chromosomes which are present inside the nucleus. These chromosomes are thick thread-like structures, and inside the chromosome there are genes. And genes are the hereditary units which are transferred from parents to the offspring or the babies. And from the babies, when the baby will grow up, it will reproduce. Then it will again transfer the same gene to his children, and this how generation after generation the transfer of gene will take place. Now inside this gene there are certain coding or codes are there in form of chemicals, in form of acid. We can also call this as genetic material. They can either be DNA, they can either be RNA. There are only two type of genetic material. One is DNA, the full form is deoxyribonucleic acid, and the other is RNA, ribonucleic acid. So few organisms, mostly the animals have DNA, whereas the plants have RNA. However, there are certain exceptions. So this viruses, nothing is there in the viruses. They don't have ribosomes, they don't have any other organelles, but they only have a body. Inside the body, there is the genetic material or the nucleic acid RNA, ribonucleic acid, and this ribonucleic acid is protected by a covering of protein, a very thick covering of protein which is named as capsid. Now, talking about the characteristics of the viruses, the first characteristic is they are very smaller in size. So you cannot see them with your naked eyes. You need a microscope, an electron microscope to view the viruses. What is electron microscope? You are well aware of it. The next point is they do not live freely in nature. They can live only inside other cells. Now these viruses cannot live freely in nature. They cannot live in air, they cannot live in water, in land. However, there are certain exceptions. Few viruses can live, but not for a very long period of time, only for a short period of time. So they need a host cell to reside in. Host means host can be anyone, like it can be plant, it can be animal, it can be human. So they will reside on the cell of these hosts and utilize their mechanisms. The next point is they take over the metabolism of their host cell in their own favor, producing more viruses and usually killing the host cell. Now, what does this mean? As the viruses cannot live on their own in the nature, they need a host. So when these viruses get an entry into the organism body, like suppose I'm taking an example of human. So it will get entry into the human body. It will go to the cell and it will get inside the entry of the cell. And there, metabolism means the chemical process by which the organisms utilize their food and produce energy. So what are the different metabolic processes present inside the human are like digestion and respiration. So for digestion and respiration, various chemicals are needed and various other contents are needed. So what this viruses does, it capture or hijack the cell metabolism. It hijack it and it utilize that energy of food, and by utilization of that energy, it start multiplying itself. Similar as the cell multiply, no, cell has a property of multiplication. Similarly, this viruses also start multiplying and increasing their number. And as soon they increase their number and start infecting various other cells of the body, then finally the host cells start killing the whole host cells. Now the next property is the viruses can be cultured on living tissue in the laboratory and can be crystallized and stored on the cell. Now viruses can also be prepared in the lab. Like usually various countries like America and China, even India are preparing viruses. However, this is not so common in India, but mostly the China and America, they prepare viruses for different bio wars. So these viruses can be prepared on temporary and self-made living tissues, and they can be crystallized. Crystallized means these viruses can only be alive in a very cold temperature. So there is a gas, nitrogen gas, and nitrogen gas at a very low temperature, it's very useful for storing the viruses for a long period of time. Viruses will stay alive in that cold atmosphere. The next point is the viruses are highly specific. This simply means that a particular type of virus will only affect or infect a particular type of organism. Like suppose the viruses which infect the human are not going to infect the animals. However, there are certain exceptions. This is not true for all. In your book, you will find an example given there that the virus of myxomatosis, which is fatal to rabies, has no effect on man, and similarly the rabbits do not catch the common cold and flu. That means the myxomatosis virus which infect the rabbits, if somehow it gets entry into our body, then it is not going to harm us. Our antibodies are going to kill it. We will not be get harmed by it. Whereas if the common cold viruses or influenza viruses which infect us, if that enters into the rabbit's body, then the rabbit will also not get affected by that. However, as according to the research, it has been said, however, we don't know it is true or not, but the coronavirus, which is very nobly spread today in the whole world, it is a pandemic virus. So this virus can also be alive in animals like bats or pangolin, and both in human. Apart from that, there is other virus like rabies virus, which generally affect the dogs, can also affect us. Like suppose for example, like a dog which is infected by rabies virus, if the dog bites us, then we have to take injection for it to get rid of the infection. So these are the various characteristics of a virus. It is said that virus is like a gene with no cell of its own. That means virus only has the genetic material RNA, but it does not have a cell with cytoplasm, ribosome, mitochondria, etc. It usually resides in a host cell and utilize its metabolism and reproduce itself, increase its number, and attack the different host cells and kill them. There is a very common controversy regarding viruses are alive or not, whether they are living being or whether they are non-living being. However, after many researches, it has been found that viruses are considered as a connecting link between living beings and non-living beings. That means we fully cannot consider them as living or non-living. Few points says that they are living and few points says that they are non-living. So let us see which characteristics of viruses support the fact that they are living beings. The first is they can multiply inside a host cell, which can be considered as reproduction. So we can say that as they have a property of increasing their number, they utilize the metabolism or machinery of cell and they increase their number and start affecting the different cells of the body. So when there is an increase in number, we consider this mechanism as reproduction. So we see that the viruses exhibit or shows reproduction, and reproduction is a property of living organisms. So we consider them as okay, they are living beings. The second point is they command the host cells and behave like living beings inside the host, either can be plant, animal or human beings. So when these viruses attack a host cell, they get an entry into the host cell, they start, it has hijacked all the mechanism of the host cells. Now whatever the viruses tells them, commands them, the cell is going to behave in that way. It has captured its mechanism. So it itself act like a living being who is ordering or giving orders to the cell and finally killing it. So on that context we regard it as living beings. So by now it is not fully considered. Still researchers are going on it that whether it is a living organism or a non-living. However, these 2 points usually support the concept of virus being living being. However, there are certain other characteristics of viruses which consider them as non-living. So let us see what are those characteristics. 2 points are given in your book and you don't have to study much on it. They cannot respire, metabolize, grow or multiply by themselves outside a host cell. Now, this is very important fact that viruses are usually inactive outside the cell. That means they are like dead organisms in the nature. They only become active when they get entry into a host cell in any animal, plant or human body. Then only they become active. So by that time when it is outside, they does not have any, they are not cell, no, so they cannot respire, they don't have cytoplasm, they don't have mitochondria or ribosome, they cannot respire, they cannot produce energy or by themselves, they cannot multiply outside in the outer environment. Only when they get entry into the host cell, into the animal, plant or human body, and they get inside the host cell, then only they utilize the metabolism of that cell and then they multiply. They cannot multiply on its own. Therefore, we consider them as non-living. The second point, they can be crystallized and made inactive for indefinite length of time. That means, as I said in the previous slide, that they can be kept in a cold atmosphere for a long period of time, okay? And they can be kept there as inactive inactive particles. We usually don't consider them as organisms but particles. So, when they are kept in a very low temperature, they can be inactive and kept for a long period of time. Now, suppose I have kept the virus, I have prepared a coronavirus, I have kept it for 2 years in liquid nitrogen at a very low temperature. By that time, if it is present in a test tube, it will be in an inactive state. But after 2 years, when I insert that virus into an organism, into suppose an animal, then as it get entry into the animal's body, it will become active. So by that time when it was in the lab, it was inactive. So on that basis we have considered it as non-living. So these 2 points supports that they are non-living organisms. However, this is not absolutely, many researches are going on, many points are there which you don't need to study in this class, but you will be studying on it in the further classes, higher classes. Now there are different type of viruses like poliomyelitis viruses or polioviruses, common cold viruses, influenza viruses, smallpox viruses, chickenpox viruses, rabies viruses, human immunodeficiency viruses. So we will talk only about few viruses, like in your syllabus there are AIDS, human immunodeficiency virus, chickenpox and hepatitis. How Now, these days, you might be hearing a lot about vaccine, when the vaccine of coronavirus will be prepared. These things are not in your syllabus, but you need to know it. It's very important to know these terms. Vaccine is usually a medicine which is prepared by the mild form of the disease. Like suppose a virus, coronavirus. So a dead form of the virus is used to prepare that medicine, and this medicine, when put inside the human body, when injected inside the human body, then this medicines boost the immune system, and the immune system can fight against that virus, the living form of the virus. So you can say vaccine can be prepared from the dead form of the virus. So there is a term vaccination. Vaccination means administration or injection of vaccine into the body, and this vaccines strengthen or boost the immune system to protect your body against that virus. So still the work is going on, and the coronavirus vaccine are yet to come. However, repeated efforts and consistent efforts of different scientists and researchers are still on. So let us see a few important information of facts. So the first vaccine was prepared by a scientist named as Edward Jenner. Later on, another scientist, Louis Pasteur, his name is given in the book. What he did, he utilized the dead germ of rabies virus, that dead rabies virus, and he prepared a vaccine and he injected it into a boy who was beaten by a mad dog or an infected dog, and that boy recovered from the rabies virus or rabies disease. So this is how the evolution of vaccination took place. And in the slide you can see the picture. The first picture is of Edward Jenner, who is the father of vaccination, and the second is of Louis Pasteur. Now one more thing is that in the next slide there is a video which you need to see. This video shows you how the virus get an entry inside the cell. Now always remember that every cell has a gate, and that gate need a key. That key is known as receptor. So if the virus has that key in its body, then it can get into the cell body. So the virus get attached to the receptor or the key of the cell, and it get entry into the cell. So this clearly is shown in the next virus. Now
Contact. This is the moment when infection begins. How does infection happen? You see the tiny shapes there on the virus particle's surface? They seem like random blobs. In reality, they are tiny keys, proteins that have evolved to the perfect shape and size, enabling them to unlock these receptors on the surface of this lung cell. Like a smile and a handshake, the virus deceives this lung cell and is welcomed in, where it will command the cell to make more virus particles.